Hey, what's up, everybody? I am Mark.
And I'm Sid.
And this is part 2, where we left off last time. But before we start, really fast, if you guys could please subscribe, touch that bell to set your alerts for every time we have a new episode coming. We are so glad you guys are back. Yeah. And today is going to be a heavy episode. So just be prepared. Yeah, warning.
All right.
But let's start off again. You know, we're at the restaurant.
Yes.
And I don't remember anyone else being there. And from then on, we were kind of just off to the races. I think what really took us to the next level was Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So if you guys remember, we talked about how Sid was really big on friendship and seeing people like in their natural spaces to just see how they operate. As if she wasn't there. And so I had invited her to come over for Thanksgiving with my family, but her family had planned like a day at Six Flags or something like that, which was cool. It just, you know, I wanted her to be there, but she couldn't make it. But then
something happened and our plans got canceled. And so I was like, oh, well, I can go to Merck's.
Yeah, lucky me.
I was super nervous to come in because we weren't dating yet officially. And it was just like a meeting the family kind of situation. And I was so nervous. And then there were so many people there.
Yeah, there were a lot. But she did great. She talked to everyone who talked to her. I don't think anybody made it weird.
Yeah, it wasn't
for
weird.
her or whatnot. There were people in my ear just talking about how beautiful she was. And, you know, so shout out to that.
That's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was probably the defining moment.
That was all I needed was to see Mark with family. And I was like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah. So that was an epic night for us. So that was November. December comes around. Her birthday is the end of December. And I asked her to be my girlfriend. And
in the cutest way possible. It was adorable.
It was pretty cute. And so that was December. So we were officially together. And then
full speed ahead.
Full speed ahead.
Yep.
And then that full speed hit a brick wall in January. Because when I was in Georgia, which I had alluded to in the last video about just going out there and being foolish, I ended up getting someone pregnant. So in January, I told Sydney about it, but in very little detail, right? So essentially you could even say it was a lie, right? Because it was so little detail in it. That there was just no real way to move forward under that guise. So I tell her that, and she handled it really well. And probably she handled it so well because of how little detail I had given. But also because she's probably the calmest person you'll ever meet in crisis. Did you say anything to me then? Like, so she had said, she'd asked me if I wanted her to come over that night when we talked about it, because I was just not in the greatest space, even though I wasn't really being all the way honest with her, because it was a crazy time in space. Overall.
Especially when I feel like when you're keeping something from someone, and that's what happens when you keep something from someone that you know has to come out. One of those things. It's not one of those things where it's like, I can hide this, I can take this to my grave. You couldn't do that.
Yeah, there was no way.
So when you're coming from that situation, I feel like it makes it so much harder because now we're in something, and now we really have something, and now you have to tell me the truth.
Yeah, and we were really in it. Like, we were completely in love. We were together at all times, really, at this point. My life was completely enveloped in hers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you were over all the time.
Yeah.
Every day you were working at the restaurant. We were going on trips together. All in just a few weeks, like full speed ahead.
Full speed.
Yeah.
So I think after she left from that night, I think, like you said, it set in. And then what happened as far as it, like, on your end for you?
So after that, and I got like some sleep and some time to think about it, I was like, no, I'm not dealing with this. It's not something that I have to deal with, because we weren't anything. I mean, we were, no, I'm sorry. We were together, but I mean, I was not bound to you like I am now.
Yeah, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Okay, baby.
I mean, all right.
Okay. So I was like, I'm not doing this. This is not my bag.
Yeah.
Not my bag. I think you walked in to the restaurant that day, and I was like, okay. I don't know. My heart just sank when you walked in, or dropped. I don't know. That's a better word.
Oh,
it just dropped when you walked in, but it wasn't in a bad way. It was like, I'm still really happy to see this person.
Yeah.
And that connection was so strong. Yeah.
So what had happened was the young lady that was pregnant, she had called me, I think, or something like that, and she thought that she was going into labor. And so I was like, whoa, well, this is really real. So that's why I told Sid at that time. But then she ended up having the baby a little bit later in the month. And my firstborn son was born.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Kason, our first child. Yeah. I guess this is our introduction for him as well, because that's just been a lot.
Something we're still working through.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But again, okay, so this is January.
Like 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
I want to say maybe 2 weeks after Kason was born, we found out that I'm pregnant.
Sid was pregnant.
5 weeks pregnant.
5 whole weeks. But because of everything that kind of had happened prior to that, we didn't really get to relish and enjoy that moment the way that we should have. And that goes back to not just being completely upfront, right? Me not being accountable for something that I had done, or responsible for something that I had done. And now our moment was overshadowed and just wasn't as...
It wasn't overshadowed. We were still happy about it.
We were happy, but it was...
yes. So there was a lot. It was carrying a lot with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, definitely sucks. But there was still joy in that.
No, definitely was. It just, I know what it should have been.
Yeah.
And I'm so sorry that I couldn't have given that to you in that moment.
Yeah.
You deserve that.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm sorry you couldn't get it either.
It's my fault.
Still sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, back to you guys. No, it's always back to you. Just so you know. So that happens, and we decide that we're gonna get married. And it wasn't like a shotgun wedding or anything like that. We had talked about marriage. I knew that she wanted an August wedding. My plan was to get engaged August of 18 and be married by August of 19. So it wasn't any of that, right? But because we had a child coming, we were just like, well, let's do this now.
Yeah.
Why wait? And so Sid's mom just absolutely took the reins on us getting married.
And planned a whole wedding.
So me and Sid had talked, and okay, we're going to get married in my parents' backyard. Yeah. Beautiful backyard, beautiful scenery, just our family, and some good food.
Right.
And that was it,
No
right?
problem, yeah.
I think we might have told her mom. And she was like, nah.
Had a fit. Nah, she basically had a fit. Her and my sister.
Yeah. They weren't with that.
They were not having that.
And so in my head, I'm like, y'all, this is 6 weeks away.
Right.
No one is going to be at this wedding, right? So anyway, so boom, they're planning the wedding. All that's going on. It is now April, 2 weeks before our wedding. And
another bomb drops.
And it was another bomb only because in January, well, not even in January, when I got back to California and we were at Cheesecake Factory, I should have said, hey, I might have a baby on the way. And just being completely upfront and honest about everything that revolved around that situation. And I wasn't. And that lack of accountability and not being responsible in that time just allowed so many things to take place in the middle. So I believe that Sid was like talking to Kaysen's mom, and she had said something, right?
Yeah.
And that clicked with Kaysen's mom. It was like, oh, that's off.
That's off, yeah.
Right? And so I'm only laughing because of how mortified this situation makes me when I think back to it. That first situation, there was like a calm, hey, this is going to be okay. It was not that.
Well, I was pregnant now.
She was pregnant.
I was 3 months pregnant. You weren't getting any
our
calm.
wedding.
You weren't getting any calm from me.
Yeah, our wedding was 2 weeks away.
Yeah.
And that night, essentially, there was no wedding. Like, everything was off. She, this isn't funny, but she was like, do you think I'm basic? Because I don't do basic. And you're a basic nigga.
Yeah.
And it's not like she was wrong. And that's what was like, yo. And because of the lie, right? And in a crazy way, I was so light in that moment. Which sounds, I'm sure, insane because of how heavy it was, how serious of a conversation we were having. But I had been carrying a lie.
Yeah.
I had been carrying guilt and shame, and it was just me.
Dark cloud.
Just me just walking with that every day. And it was horrible. In fact, it wasn't until literally right now that I'm realizing how much that impacted what happens after this in our marriage. Like literally right now, it makes more sense to me. So I'd adapted to keeping it to me because I think I was afraid of what would have happened had I let it out.
And that's what the devil tells you, right? Keep this secret. Mm-hmm. Keep this hidden.
Yeah, it's not that deep. You're saving.
No,
yourself.
It is though. He's saying it is that deep.
Yeah, no, I'm saying
lose everything.
It's not that deep to keep it to yourself. Like it's better that you do that. Yeah,
that's what he wants you to believe.
Yeah,
you're gonna lose everything.
If
Everyone's
you let
gonna
this
hate
out,
you.
Yeah, you're the worst person in the world.
Yeah,
you'll lose everything that you fought and waited so long for.
Yeah,
and then what? Were you any better for it at the end?
You can't get better. You're this person.
Mm-hmm. No, it's a good lie.
Yeah,
it's a good lie that the enemy will put on you, and it's easy for you to believe it. I have no doubt in my mind, and maybe I'm wrong. Who knows how she really would have reacted, or if maybe something would have changed at that time. But I think at Cheesecake Factory, had I told Sydney that, she might have been like, oh, that's awesome. Good for you. You should go back to him. Like, I'm not messing with you. And honestly, she was well within her, rights to have thought that and to have done that.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have taken away that opportunity from her.
So it was done. Basically, we were done. That was it. And then I started to think about it a little further about what us being done meant. And I began to weigh, well, can we get through this? Is this something that's not really, is it something that's worth it, but is it something that I can get over? Or am I okay with being a single mom? And those were my options. So I weighed those and I decided to go ahead and stick it out. Unfortunately, I did that thinking that we would be able to kind of talk things out, go to therapy and discuss everything, and that would help. And we were not able to do that because our counselor, who our family has gone to this particular counselor and they loved him, but we brought this to him and what did he say?
The way I remember it was he said something along the lines of, did you choose to forgive him? Sydney's response was, yes. His response to that was, well, in that case, you essentially have to work on you.
Yeah.
That's basically what it was. He was like,
basically keep it to myself.
Yeah, keep it to yourself. Like if you've already chosen to forgive this person and you feel like something coming up, then you need to unpack that, why you feel that way.
Yeah.
And essentially to not let that be something that comes up.
He said that and I just shut down. I felt shut down. And I feel like I literally was like, oh, okay. And then we left and kept going.
Yeah, and that was horrible for us because
we didn't leave.
It was stuck right there. It was like we didn't develop much more after that.
Yeah.
And that was...
Well, our family's developing.
Yeah.
Like we got married.
We got married. We had
a child.
We were working.
Yeah.
We were just going through life every day. But our relationship had not really grown and developed the way that it should have developed because our lines of communication and vulnerability and understanding of each other were
cut off.
And it sounds crazy, right? Because of how much connection we had made prior to.
Yeah.
But again, this just goes to show, like, when you do something that can put a block in your growth and you just keep moving as if nothing happened.
Yeah.
And then the truth is revealed, then you have to go back to that. Because, I mean, even if you just want to move forward and you have someone else that you're involved with, they're going to just reevaluate everything that's happened up until that point, right? Or even before. And now we have to unpack all of this. And we have to rebuild trust and rebuild communication lines. And it was just so much. And we didn't have the tools. We did not have the tools to do that.
We had no tools. We had hurt and we had guilt and shame, just all mixed together.
Yeah. And a child
and
that lives with us that just, and just, we didn't really get to enjoy each other in marriage early on.
Yeah.
And that is wild. And that is what starting off a marriage with a lie can look like.
Me being so into Mark and us taking that time to develop our friendship and to date after we had developed our friendship, it was really great. And I was really excited about him. And when I found that out, immediately in my mind, it's like something switched off that even though I decided to stay because I wanted our family to be whole, and I thought that I would, be able to get over it. It just in my head, because that's how he started off. It was, Mark did not deserve me. And so we went into marriage with that being my mindset, and we couldn't. There was nowhere that we could go while that was my mindset.
Yeah. And she was right. It just became more work than anything else. There was very little natural, I feel like, to us at that point. I was trying to understand what it was to be a husband. Right now, I'm like, okay, I'm married with a child on the way. What does being a husband look like in this space? And I just took on like an attitude of be a provider. And our lines of communication were shot. It's like we've forgotten how to talk to each other.
And we did, because like I said, with me having that mindset of this person does not deserve me, it's almost like it's impossible for me to talk to you in the respectful and honorable way that a wife is supposed to address her husband.
Yeah.
Because that was my mindset. Like, I'm in a situation where a person does not deserve me.
Yeah, and I was a parent.
But to me, I didn't even know I was doing it.
Oh man, really?
No. Yeah, because we did not talk about that, and that's where my mindset was. It was just coming out. Like, I was not at all doing anything intentionally, but it was just spewing out of me in every word that I said.
And I was not equipped to handle that. And now I'm not communicating anything. There's, she needs clarity on little things, and it's not there. It's not there. And so it was tough. It was tough. In all that was in 2018, and it's 2023. Mm-hmm. And she's in my arms. So it won't all be bad, but we just wanted to give you guys a closer look at what this looked like for us, and that when God gives you something, to cherish it and to cultivate it and
be serious
about it, because I knew that she was going to be my wife from the moment I saw her. And to have been able to know that and to move that way and then to get someone else pregnant, right? How does that even happen? And so you need to be extremely intentional.
Yeah. Vigilant.
Yeah.
And it's also super important not to just be honest with a person that you love, but to be honest with yourself. Be honest about who you are and where you are in life. And that will help a lot with being honest with the people that you love.
Yeah. That's key. Yeah. So, I think we're going to end it there.
Yeah.
For this episode. It was a lot. And if it was heavy for you, then sit with it. And if any of this feels familiar or something that you're going through now, we would love to pray for you. So if you want to put your name in the comments or your experience in the comments, you can contact us. Our socials are in the video. Mm-hmm. Our comments are open. And that our story will touch someone else. And just so you know, like, your problems aren't unique. The things you've done wrong, you're not alone in that. You weren't the first person to do that. You won't be the last person to do it. And you're not condemned to fail or to be alone because of it.
And there's grace and mercy reserved for you.
And that is probably the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
So again, please subscribe,
Yeah.
like the video, share the video, because you might have someone else who needs to see it.
Yeah.
And until then, we'll see you guys next week.
Can't wait.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.